Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, another episode in the Unported playlist series of games where we take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. Today we're taking a look at Jurassic Park on the System 32 based hardware. We've already taken a look at the Model 3 Jurassic Park game, so I figured we'd roll it back in time and take a look at the first game in the series. But before we get too far involved, you can do me a huge favor. Go down below, hit like and subscribe, ring that notification bell. It definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined, we have a Patreon link below as well if you want to support the channel. I promise I will not use any of your money building an island filled with dinosaurs. But I love the System 32 sprite scaling technology, and I love light gun games, so of course I'm going to love Jurassic Park. And it's for the opening. You're immediately thrown into the action in this game, and this game is unrelenting. There are barely any moments in time where you're not going to be fighting something. It is fast-paced, it is constant, and by the time you're done playing this game, you're going to feel like you've been in front of it for hours, when in reality it's only been about 25 minutes. It's stressful, it's constantly moving, you constantly have something to shoot, it just never lets up. It's more action-packed and faster and more intense than about 95% of the arcade games I have played on the Unported playlist. And of course, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know I love light gun arcade games, so this has absolutely everything I love all in one package. And I remember when Jurassic Park came out in theaters. We went to see it, it was really fun, but I don't love it the same way that my wife loves it. She loves Jurassic Park and wants to watch it pretty regularly, maybe once every couple of years. So I know enough about Jurassic Park to know where it's taking inspiration in this game and where Sega is making things up, because as we get a little further on into the game, things are just going to be getting a little bit weirder. But you'll see here when I talk about all that action-packed content going on, we are just getting bombarded by different dinosaurs. They're running at us. There's 30, 40 enemy sprites on screen at one time. The car is going fast, and this game is running at a locked 60 frames a second. And that's how good the System 32 was at pushing sprites around. All this is going on screen at once, and it's just running flawlessly. And now you have even more dinosaurs running at you, and things are getting even crazier. And it's just so much fun. This game really feels like you're holding your breath just trying to get through it. And I will say that it is quite a difficult game. If you're actually throwing quarters into this in an arcade, you're probably going to give up before you see the end of it unless you feel like dumping a lot of money into it. Because as far as light gun arcade shooters go, this is probably the hardest / cheapest one I've ever played. As I mentioned earlier, knowing enough about Jurassic Park, I do not remember any highways going above tree lines, and they're not even supported by anything. Now this is just Sega obviously making things up as they go along, and they love doing that with arcade and even console games based on movie properties. They use the lightest inspiration from the films, and then they just started doing really strange things with it, because now you have dinosaurs running down the highway, and I'm pretty sure those are stegosauruses, but you tell me if you're into dinosaurs, what are they? And now we're below the level of the trees. We can see them, but we're just in the ether down below. It's a weird look, but I just absolutely love it. And these are the type of games that I remember being a kid and loving to play. I enjoyed dinosaurs, I liked Jurassic Park, I loved light gun shooters, and this, even if you only played it for 3 or 4 minutes, you felt like you got a lot out of your quarter's worth, because it just kept going and getting more and more intense. Now you'll see here, we instantaneously jump right to Area 2. The action doesn't let up, we don't get any score screen, it just keeps going. And it can almost feel in a way exhausting, because by the time you're actually done with this game, you want to get up, walk away, and probably not play another video game that day, because it just hammers you over and over again. And you even have a few branching path areas. I'm not sure how to activate them. I didn't play through it again because I was exhausted when I was done. It was my last capture of the day. But there's enough to make you keep coming back to this game a few times. Now, it is a relatively expensive arcade board to buy, but it is potentiometer based, meaning it's an XY coordinate gun, so you could hook up a modified flight stick to this board and play it in your cabinet or on a super gun. And it may be something that I actually do add, because it is on my list of games that I would like to have physical copies of. And I love that we use that giant dinosaur's neck as a ramp to jump here. And I don't remember dolphins being in the game, or maybe those are swordfish, I mean the movie. So there's definitely some enemies that just don't exist because those weren't in the actual film. What I'm going to let you do now is just watch about a minute's worth of the gameplay, because the soundtrack's great, everything's amazing, and you should probably just get a sense of the intensity without me talking. So I'll be back in about a minute, and I'll tell you more about why this is the most fun and stressful light gun game I've ever played. But enjoy! You know a game's intense when the boss battle actually feels like the relaxing point in the game, where all you're really need to do is focus on shooting one thing versus shooting dozens of things that are coming at you every single time you look around the screen. But again, we got the T-Rex. I love that they jump over the chasm, and this is probably the biggest break the game is going to give you. It's about 15 seconds of not doing anything, and that is to say, I wish the break was like a minute and there was a score section, because as soon as you get past area 3, you're shooting all these logs here to move on with the game. But if you've never played this before, I highly recommend you check it out. You don't have to be a fan of Jurassic Park, but if you are, it's definitely going to help because you're going to know what's going on, which is to say, kill dinosaurs. Not a lot to know to be able to play the game, but I just absolutely love the look of the Sega System 32. All of the games on it are absolute classics, and most of them were never ported, because by the time home console hardware was powerful enough to run something like Jurassic Park, 3D games are way more popular. The Saturn could have definitely pulled most of this, if not all of it, off, but what people wanted when the hardware was available to run this was games in 3D, and that's why a lot of these games never got ported home. It's not that we didn't have the technology, it's that the customer base no longer wanted to have 2D games, which is unfortunate because I would absolutely love just to be able to sit down at my Sega Saturn and play this game. Maybe someday Sega will bring these back out as a compilation. One of the original games I covered on an Unported playlist was Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder, and that actually did end up coming back out. Granted, it is an arcade one-up cabinet release, but that's a game that Sega never did anything with after it released, so maybe there's a slight hope for something like Jurassic Park. Although it is a movie license that Sega doesn't own, and that always adds an extra layer of complexity to bringing something back out into the public, is they may actually have to relicense this game for sale. But again, we're trying to go over a bridge, and now our truck is just falling into a chasm with all these different pterodactyls, that's what I think they are at least, flying at me and trying to attack me while I have to shoot them. It's just such an action-packed game that it's going to be something that is incredible to play. All of the stages feel different, there's always something different going on, you're always making forward momentum and shooting something, and the intensity is always at a straight 10. And that's why I love this game so much. I am definitely inclined to love light gun arcade games because it's my favorite genre, but this is one of the best in the genre. And I love that now that we're into the museum, we're going to go a little bit slower, but nothing is actually really going to slow down intensity-wise. But if you do want to emulate this, it works perfectly fine on MAME. What I'm doing right now is I'm just using an Xbox One controller, and that analog stick is my reticle. You can do this with a Wiimote, you can do it with a mouse, you can do it with a Sinden light gun. There's a lot of ways to emulate arcade light gun games at home with different control schemes. It's actually one of the most comprehensive ways to play games via emulation because people have thought about almost everything because the games really are that popular and a lot of people fondly remember them and want to play them again. But now you'll see a little bit of a break, and we have a T-Rex leg coming down, and if it wasn't intense enough to fight one T-Rex earlier, now we're going to have a second one coming in. The game decided you needed a little bit more intensity before you finished up. But I'd love to hear, do you guys know of any arcade cabinets for this still out in the wild? Because I haven't seen it since the early 2000s. I feel like I say that constantly, but I love going to arcades in the 90s and 2000s, so that's when I saw a lot of this stuff. Short of that, if you have any questions or comments, I'll leave them down below. I love chatting with you guys. I will be back next Sunday with even another episode in the Unported playlist series. And I will have videos on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. But like I said, if you've never played this game, if you've never heard of it, definitely check it out. Check all the games on the System 32 platform out because they all have this amazing sprite scaling technology, and there really isn't a bad game on the System 32. But you'll see here the T-Rex has finally got us cornered, and it's just a shootout between him and I. Granted, he's fighting with teeth and I have bullets, but that's the way it goes. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.